Hello, hello, hello. How
Hello,
is
hello, hello.
everyone doing this Wednesday? So, I before we start the show and I announce a special guest that I have here today, who is somebody very special and dear to me on a personal level. I want to remind everybody to do what Stephanie's doing when you are around other people. Social distance, wear your mask, wash your hands on a constant basis, um, sanitize. You should already be doing this. She's OCD. She's always been like that. You should already be doing this, but continue doing it because you never know
Yeah.
what underlying disease or situation anybody's got going on with their immune system. Please take care of yourself and act as if you're sick for everybody else. Um, I also wanted to tell all our pups out there. Everybody knows I'm a dog lover, animal lover. I love my cats and my dogs. Today is International Dog Day. I think it's your pet day, but I want to say it's dog day. But those are my babies. I posted them up on social media. It's an old post. You can just add one more rescue to those because I
Okay.
love animals and I wish I can rescue them all, but I can't. I can't afford it. It's too expensive. Five is
Mhm.
enough. But I bet you nobody, Steph, how many do you want to bet that no one will ever break into my house? So, anyways, I hope everyone's had a good week, a safe week, a dry week with this rain or whatever. Now, to introduce the lady of the hour. So, Stephanie is here to tell about her story, how it is that you go from being raised with two military parents. I won't talk about everything in between, all the hardship from medication being prescribed to drug addiction, to deep drug addiction, to deaths of mates that she was with. And God still pulled her through all of
Yes,
this. To
yes.
be at your
Praise
lowest,
God.
at your lowest, amen. To be at your
Amen.
lowest and then turn around and see, oh my gosh, I get goosebumps. To turn
Me
around
too.
and see what God has changed in your life and give
Yeah.
your life to the Lord and be able to give an amazing testimony. And then
Yes,
at the
ma'am.
same time, just get baptized. So anyway, Stephanie, enough about me giving you this hype. Stephanie Jones, who has an amazing testimony for each and every one of you guys worldwide to hear. I pray to God that this helps somebody and this moves somebody if they are dealing with anything such as what she dealt with and still is dealing with to this day. Go
Yes.
ahead with your story. My sister in Christ, my real sister who I've known 30 years. I love you.
Yes.
I'm dying to hear this, and I know they are as well.
Okay, well, we'll start it off. My parents were both Air Force, as well as Anna. Her father was in Air Force, so
Army,
um, I was a military brat, and
both.
I moved. I've been in Germany, Louisiana, New York. We moved around a lot, and that um. Wow. Okay, hold on. Let me pray. Okay.
Take a deep
So,
breath, Mama.
okay, yes. Um,
I'll help you.
okay. So, growing up with military parents and everything, um, my dad wasn't very strict, and my mom was. They divorced when I was 8 years old. Then my mom married someone that was in the military as well, and my dad remarried. And then started off when I was 13, and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And my mother and my stepfather put me in the hospital, and it started off with medication there. Um, them telling me that I was sick and that there was something wrong with me. And my mom and my stepdad, they just didn't really want to deal with me. So they put me in foster care in Omaha, Nebraska. And my dad was able to keep me, but he didn't even know that I was there. That's how the relationship between my mom and my dad, most of the time until I moved to Florida with him, he didn't know what was going on with us, me and my brother Sean. So at about the age of 16, after living in many foster homes in Omaha, Nebraska, and then in living with friends of mine, their family, um, oh shoot, living in, I was living with the neighbor, who was my best friend. Her mom and stepdad decided to get like a uh, where they could have me as a foster child. So they kind of like adopted me as a foster child. I was living with them for almost like a year, and they were telling me something was wrong with me too, telling me I was sick in the head. And they fed me this stuff like, you need this medication. There's something's wrong with you. I was bullied by their daughter, who used to tell me she wanted to beat me up, she wanted to fight me. Now I'm a big girl. Um, that's always been a problem because I'm 6 feet tall. I have body dysmorphia and an eating disorder that I've overcome now. Um, but we'll talk
Amen.
about how. So about the age of 16, my dad realized that I was in living in Cal. I moved from Omaha because the people I was living with when my mom and my stepdad moved to Japan, I did not want to go to Japan with them at the time because me and my stepdad were fighting so bad. So I went to live with friends, and they were my foster parents for a while. And then my dad found out that I was living in California, and the area of California I was living in was very there was a lot of gangs, there was shootings on my street, drive-by shootings on my street. So my dad wanted me to come to Florida, and I did. And when I first got here, the first thing off, I got off the plane, and my dad said we were going to SeaWorld. And we didn't go to SeaWorld. We went to Laurel Oaks is what it was called. It was a behavioral center for teens, for children and teens. And I went
Stephanie,
there. Yeah.
let me interrupt you 1 second because I
Okay,
forgot to
go
say
ahead.
this at
I'm
the beginning
sorry.
of the show, and I think
I'm
it's very
sorry.
important for somebody who might
Okay.
need Stephanie to guide them.
Yeah.
The phone lines are open. The phone number is 678-381-1973. Again, the
Okay.
number is 678-381-1973. If you have any questions for Stephanie, 678-381-1973. Phone lines are open. And one more thing I wanted to add.
Okay.
Well, Stephanie, if Stephanie, let me know if I'm overstepping, because
No,
I
not at
understand
all.
that everybody feels their testimony needs to fully be said, but I do know this about
Yeah.
Stephanie. While you were in California, there was a point where you were affiliated somehow, some way, and I don't want to go into
Yes.
detail, with this certain gang.
Yes.
Um, Before you go on to Florida, can you tell exactly what it was that happened that also traumatized you, and
Yes.
not having your father? And mind you guys, she's very close to her dad. Her dad, I love her dad to pieces. She's very, very close to her dad. She loves all her family, but her dad has been her biggest support through all
Yes.
of this. Um, what happened in California that affected you as well mentally? So I want you
Um,
guys to understand how the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
I was only, I believe I was before, this was before I was 16. I don't know exactly what age it was, but I was sexually assaulted by many members of a gang in California. I don't want to say which one or anything. Um, and that like put a lot of stuff in my head that it was I thought for years that it was my fault. Um, when you're that young and stuff, and I tried to tell people and they didn't really believe me, and they I tried to take my own life many times. I just thought God didn't like me, or that he just wanted me dead or something, and but that wasn't the truth. And so I came to Florida, and I started living with my dad, and that was good. But I was I had always been on those medications, and so I I met the first love of my life, which was my son's father, and his name was Rich, and he I don't know how to.
Okay, take a deep breath. So when you go to Florida, you go to Laurel,
Yeah, I was in
Mr.
Laurel Oaks.
Jones, I'm not going to go into the first
Yes,
name or anything. Mr.
no,
Jones goes, and hello, Mr. Jones. I'm sure you're going to
yes,
watch this.
yeah, he's gonna see
And
this.
send me my love.
Yeah,
Mr. Jones goes and he takes you to Laurel Oaks, which
yeah,
Laurel Oaks is kind of like
I
a
know,
behavior
a
place
behavioral center
that you
for
go to.
children.
get help or whatever. So what
Yeah,
happens once you're there?
the doctors basically there's like two different sides. There's the residential side that people can the kids there stay there for like up to a year, and then
Mhm.
there's the other side, which I was at first, which is like the acute side that is for not that bad of problems. And they put me on the other side, which was a lot of kids with very messed up problems that uh, had tried to kill their siblings, had set their houses on fire. Um, one girl used to try to flush her head down the toilet. Like all this like stuff was stuff I seen, and it affected me really bad. Like if my eyes could if my eyes could tell the story and not my mouth, it would be much worse. But so I came to Florida and I was in the hospital. I stayed for 6 months. Okay. Um, I got help, a little bit of help for my eating disorder, but that made it worse being in there because of the food they feed you made you gain weight. They feed you a lot. And so I've always had that. When I look in the mirror, I think that I'm like 400 pounds or whatever, but I'm not. Um, and I've bounced back my whole life. I get thin. I still think I'm fat. And then my bulimia started about the age of 16 when I was in Laurel Oaks. So I would eat, 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 and then and that and then now what they do with the body shaming girls, that are, they're healthy, they're not big, and we see these magazines and what the people in Hollywood
Society.
want everybody to look like, and that is not that's not realistic. Okay, that is not realistic what they show on TV and these music videos. And um so I I always identified myself as like an alternative, like rebel kind of girl, Um, the music I listened to was very it is like mind washing. Brainwashing, yes. Um, and it doesn't really have a positive message. I listened to Nirvana, Green Day, a lot of punk rock music that was just like anger and angst and depression and suicide.
Negativity.
You know,
Mhm.
yes, negativity,
Negativity.
negativity, yes. And I thought that was like the right way, like, and so
Absolutely.
listening to that music, and them talking about smoking pot, Cypress Hill, big
Hit
smoking
from the bong.
hits from the bong, exactly. You remember that? So listening to that stuff, I thought I needed that myself, and then with the bipolar disorder, me having mood swings and stuff, I thought that the drugs was helping me and making me feel better. And it really wasn't. It really wasn't making me feel better. It was making me worse. It made my mood swings worse. It made the depression worse. It made the eating disorder worse. It made my will to want to live worse. Um, I've experienced so much tragedy as a young child at 8 years old in Melbourne, where me and Anna lived. Um, my grandmother was hit by a drunk driver when I was only 8 years old. She lived in Sherwood Park in Melbourne, and she was had an anxiety disorder where she was afraid to drive. So she was walking to one of those. They don't even have them anymore, but one of those little blue post office boxes where the Magic Market was on Post and Croton, and she was hit by
That's
a drunk
been
driver.
years.
Yeah, yeah, that happened in like the early '80s. Like you think it was '82. Yeah,
Mhm.
like 82 or 83 when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And I remember it was before my parents, it was after my parents got divorced, because I remember my mom drove us to Pennsylvania, and then my dad and her came in two different cars. So I knew right then something was wrong because they weren't in the same car together. And that was kind of hard to process as a kid, because I thought that was me and my brother, we thought that was our fault. Like we must have done something wrong as a kid that our parents don't want to be together, and that was really, really tough. But So yeah, so then when I
And
started,
Steph, sorry to
yes,
interrupt you. I
it's
want
okay.
the listening audience to understand one thing.
Yes,
While she's fighting all these demons, you're talking about music,
yes,
and music does
drugs.
affect. People say it
Yes,
doesn't, but I really believe whether it's Christian music,
yes,
hip hop, whatever you're listening to,
hmm,
and
yes,
I like all genres. Stephanie very well knows I don't discriminate with music. I
yes.
love
No,
music.
no, no.
Um, so you've got to understand and put yourself in that person's shoes. You're
Right,
sitting here and you're fighting all these feelings. You're fighting
right.
an eating disorder. You're fighting
Yes,
feelings about how you look because you're tall, and which she should have been modeling because she's just beautiful and a beautiful
thank you.
person inside and out. But you're dealing through all of this. Not only that, your mom's never home
Mm-mm.
because of the military job. And I'm not saying
Yes,
anything negative. A lot
no.
of respect
No, but
to
she basically thought that she could buy us whatever we wanted, and then she could be gone all day and night, and that was how she showed us love, and um, that was rough too, because I thought that was cool as a kid. Yeah, we got everything we wanted, but as an adult, it became hard. It became hard on us. Okay, so
Mhm.
I'm sorry for talking over you, Anna. I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. And then on top of it, you're dealing all that. I mean,
Yeah,
so just put yourself there. And then on top of it, she loses her grandma, and her dad's her heart,
yes,
and
my dad is
the
he's
medication's
my
already
rock.
got her. The enemy's already gotten in.
Yes.
You see what
Oh
I'm
yes.
saying? He's already there. Now he's
Yeah.
already grabbing a hold of her. Because this goes a little bit more than her. And,
Yes.
maybe later she can talk about that at a later point. I'm sure she's not ready to talk about that. But the enemy grabs her. And now he knows what's about to happen in the future and how
Right.
God protects her all the way. So he's fighting for this soul. And when
Right.
I tell you spiritual warfare, I walked that most of
Yes.
that path with her.
Yes.
There was a
Yes, you
point where
did.
we were away because I was dealing through my domestic issues, which everybody knows about on the station. Nothing
Right.
to deny. Um, or to run from.
Mhm.
So then grandma passes away. You guys feel it's your fault. By
No.
then, you're how old?
Yes. I was like 8 when that happened.
Okay.
So I had I thought like um I thought it was our fault that my parents were getting divorced, that they weren't together. Not that my grandmother, but I was just telling you about that because that's how old I was when I experienced like a tragedy, like death
Absolutely.
in the form of my granny getting run over in her 40s, and that was very, very traumatizing. Um,
Absolutely.
everybody remembered that when we were growing up. Anna, I'm sorry. What was okay? Oh
Take
my
a
God.
deep breath.
Yes, yes.
Um, take a
Sorry.
deep breath. So then that happens. That was your first tragedy. Now that it's very
Yes,
important that she mentions this because there's going to be four big more tragedies
yes,
when we fast forward later on in life. So then you're a teenager.
yes.
I'll tell you
Got out
guys,
of the hospital.
Stephanie, Anna did no wrong. Anna to this day does no wrong. You can't mess with Anna. Stephanie's 6 foot self would probably still come after you, and she's a born again Christian. I'm
Right.
joking. I'm joking.
I know.
We're older now.
Yes. Yeah.
So, um, so then Stephanie turns around. She meets this wonderful guy who
Yeah.
I personally respected a lot because, like Stephanie knows, I don't judge.
No,
She
no, she
meets
don't.
this guy. His name is
It's
Rich.
Rich. Yes, Rich will be.
Go ahead. I'll let you speak of him. And he's
Um,
her son's father.
I can remember the day that I met my son's father. I went to billiards, the pool hall on Aurora, and I met him, and I can remember the shirt he was wearing and everything. It was a that alternative. Remember the store on Satellite Beach, Final Dimensions, and he bought the shirt there, and I that was the first love of my life. I loved him because he didn't treat. Remember I hung around. We were like tomboys. I was kind of a tomboy, a feminine tomboy that will make himself, but I liked cars and all that. So when I meet Rich, I meet him with all his friends, and they're bad talking, bad, saying so bad things of women. They're bees and they're this and they're blue. And I'm like, but Rich was the only one out of all of them that never said those words, and he kind of like stuck up for women, and
Absolutely.
he really did. He was very respectful, and
Yeah.
I felt I got a crush on him. And then I started letting him hold my pager so I could get a hold of him, and the pager was a big thing between me and my dad because my dad had met a woman, and I'm gonna explain that real quick because that she's remember what she did to me. So she pointed a gun at my head in Louisiana, and that's why I hadn't lived with my dad for a few years until I was 16, and then I came to Florida, and then I got out of the hospital, and she did not want to let me live with her and her daughter Chanisa again. So what she did was she let my dad stay at Mr. My grandpa Vernon D's house, and uh, she my dad would go there on the weekends, and he'd work throughout the week driving to the base, and then he would go on the weekends and come back home while I would stay there in the house by myself. And so I was like a latchkey kid. My dad worked all day, then he'd come home at night and he'd be tired, and he'd be watching his shows and stuff, and he was a good dad and everything, but he didn't really know what was going on, you know he didn't
Absolutely.
know the extent of stuff, and he didn't know anything about the eating disorders or the body dysmorphia that I was going through, um, and then I meet somebody that was my friend and your friend as well, and how that kind of comes into play. She was like she was like you. It would be like me introducing your mom to my dad, and then they get married. And then so she was my one of my best friends. Her name was Carrie, and her mother was named Patty. Oh, sorry, just
Okay.
don't use names. Okay.
Yeah. Try not to just
Yeah,
kind
okay.
of.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I won't say nothing then.
Oh,
She
you
moved
can
in
tell the
with them.
story.
Yeah,
It's just,
she
you
moved.
know,
They married, and then she moved in, and then years later, uh, when stuff hit the fan, um, you know, uh,
can I help you walk through that?
yes, walk me through it because I'm
Okay. So, the next part of her testimony, um, Stephanie and I had a mutual friend,
yes,
good friend of ours, our age, who we love dearly,
yes,
um, and are still friends with today.
yes, yes,
Um, this person turns around. They decide that it's their great idea. They're going to introduce mom and dad. So, anyways, long
yeah.
story
We
short,
thought that would
mom
be
and dad
cool.
kicked it off.
We thought so.
It worked out. Mom and dad kicked it off.
Yes, it was
Meanwhile, and during this time, at the same time, Stephanie and Rich are together.
growing together.
Um,
Yes,
they
we're falling more in love.
they're very serious.
Yes, we're very serious.
Now, mind you, Rich was the kind of person that was easily deceived by
Yes.
people, and
Oh
I know
yes.
that if he was here, he would say
He
that
was
I
taken
was
advantage
easily
of.
deceived.
He was taken
Yeah,
advantage of, and
many times.
many
And
times,
Stephanie hits a man up a
yes,
lot of
I
times.
would have to stick up for him, and at one time yes,
Okay, we'll leave it there.
yes,
But you guys can message her and she could tell you guys the rest of that
yes,
story. It's really
yeah,
funny. It
it
happened
is.
more than once. We don't
Yes,
need to
it
go
did.
on there because this is a Christian station,
It
so we're
did.
on.
Right.
Anyway,
That's right.
so from there, Stephanie
And I would do it again.
huh?
I would stick up for him if he was still here. I would do it again for him.
She
I loved
trust
him.
me, she will do that till the day she dies. Okay,
Yes.
because Richard does not
I
love.
don't like when people take advantage of people,
Absolutely,
because some people can't stick up for themselves, and
absolutely.
that's what I've been going through my whole life. Like not me. Well, yes, people bullied me, but I bullied back, but I've
Mhm.
never bullied anybody, and I see that Rich was taken advantage of a lot. And you know, he was a good guy. He was
Absolutely.
honest. He was honest. He knew everybody. Everybody knew him, and he was just uh, the good die young.
Absolutely. And
You know?
then Stephanie, no, you're fine. You need to let all of
No, I
that
know.
out.
Yeah, I know.
So then after that, Stephanie and Rich have been together for whatever X amount of time.
Yes, years.
Stephanie is expecting a child,
Yes.
um, who is one of my godchildren.
Wow.
Anyhow,
Right.
um, meanwhile, through all this, you can talk about the addiction and
Yes.
what happens.
So,
Mind you,
as
she
time,
started at
yes,
pills that were
I
prescribed by
it's the
medical
addiction part
professionals.
starts where at age 13 when they were giving me medications to deal with the anxiety and to deal with the mood swings and the mania. So I got prescribed a lot of Thorazine and Ativan, which is a benzo. So it led me to Xanax by the time I was 18. And then you think because the doctor prescribes it that it's okay, you know? So when that starts, then the other drugs come into play big time because um, you're bound. First, I believe, like what they say, the doctors say that marijuana is the gateway drug because it was for me. So then, when they gave me medication for the mood swings and the anxiety that I was really having, I needed that. I took it,
So,
and then my guard came down, and I started dabbling in recreational designer drugs, ecstasy, heroin, cocaine, and the addiction to opiates came into play after Tyler was born, after my son was born. I had him when I was in my 20. I found out on my 21st birthday that I was gonna have him, and that was the best day of my life. Really, um, I still think of that all the time. That's one good thing that I have from that relationship. Um, I was blessed big time, and my son is awesome. He's the world
mhm.
to me, and he's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing now for myself. So the addiction grabbed Rich real hard. um and then the enemy came in form of a female. Okay. And and um since she knew his weak spots with the hard stuff, um and it's hard for me to talk about that, about Rich getting to those kind of drugs, because I didn't mess with those, but she did, and so did he. Crack cocaine, and she came into the picture and tried to mentally tell him that I'm no good for him. I'm his baby's mom. I'm the mom of his son, and I've been with him for 5 or 6 years at this point, and we were in love, and he went to jail a lot, and I would be there for him. And then she came in and she was her Jezebel spirit, and he one night I get a call that he didn't wake up. He did some bad stuff. I don't even know what it was, but it was a couple of people were there that had been charged with murder, be another murder case. So in my heart, I think there was something foul there, but I
Absolutely.
can't say for what, because I wasn't there to see it with my own eyes. So I know, and that was like the second tragedy in my life. That was like that death hit me harder than anything's ever hit me. It was like the worst day of my life. It was also on my mom's birthday, so it was July 10th, 2002, and I was, oh God, Anna, you don't. It's like you can't even imagine what happens when the person that you wake up to every day, and that you thought you were going to have a life with, is no longer here. Um,
Absolutely.
the enemy really takes control of, tries to tell your mind so much stuff, like what I
Absolutely.
should do to her, like what I should do to myself. Like I just was lost, and very lost and broken and like a disaster. uh
Absolutely.
I met somebody after that in Merritt Island, and
Hang on. Before you
yeah,
go there,
yeah,
from the moment you lost Rich.
Right.
Rich, rest in peace. I
Yes.
think of you often, and I know you
Yes.
would have been an incredible dad and an
Yes,
incredible
he would have.
husband within time. You somehow got swallowed,
Oh
and I
yeah.
always think of you.
Yes.
um, One of the most well-mannered men you will ever meet, although he fought certain demons and certain
Yes, he did.
addictions.
Yes, he did.
Um, then we fast forward or sorry, we're rewinding, and we
Yes.
go back to how your life spiraled.
Yes.
Because now you're not only are you carrying all this baggage from
I
the time
got
you're a
an
child.
I got addiction problems as well. Just not what he was addicted to.
Absolutely.
I got addicted to opiates through pills, through doctors prescribing me Lortab, Vicodin. Then I went to Percocet, Oxy, and then eventually, after a few years of that, I figured, oh, um, I just didn't figure it just happened. I jumped to heroin, and
So, Stephanie, before you go there, and I want the listening audience to understand this because opioid has not just started. Okay?
no,
Understand, we're
this is
talking about the 90s.
2002. This is 1999 when this started happening with me.
Absolutely.
A
So
car
this
accident.
happened way before all of this. So
Yes,
what you're hearing about opioid now, and I can only say this because of the town that my dad retired in, and I
yes,
can say that's where I grew up, but it's really where I spent my last of my teenage years
yes, you
and
did. Me
until
too. Me too.
early 30s that I spent with my in that town in particular. I could imagine
Yes,
your story is very similar.
yes.
It's so small, there's nothing to do.
There's
So
nothing to
when you
do.
have people, yeah, exactly, absolutely, and
Boredom, idle time,
absolutely, and
idle
then
time.
you're seeing all these addictions, all these deaths, but these doctors are
Yes,
constantly writing pills. Now remember, because you got to
doctor.
go back to 2003, 2004, 2005, maybe up to 2010. They had what they call pill mills, and they were just
Criminals
writing
all over
prescriptions
Melbourne, everywhere,
all
and
over
over
Florida,
Florida, all over
all
Florida.
over Florida.
People
I
from
mean, these
people
doctors
from
were
New
getting
Jersey,
paid
Pennsylvania, driving down to Florida,
all over.
going to different doctors. Yes, it was
And
crazy.
people don't believe this, but a small
No,
place like Melbourne, Florida, Brevard County, it's it
yes,
shouldn't be going on with your kids. This is
no,
why I have the testimony and I am who I am. And I decided that that was not for me. That was not where I
yes,
wanted my kids at. That was not the atmosphere
right,
because so many people fell into that pit and so
yes,
many friends I lost, so many people I knew, so many people who had family
yes.
members that have lost their fight to
This,
addiction, to
yes,
addiction. It got so bad many a times because I can say this because I know her story. Stephanie was behind an ambulance being taken to what we call circles of care after the situation with Rich passing away. This was probably one of the hardest points of her life because not only was she addicted and fighting all of this, guess what? Here comes the enemy and he takes the one thing she
person that.
has that she loves the most in this world and talk about that.
Okay, so uh, you know, he started listening to another female tell him that this person was supposedly my friend and used to take my son and watch my son when from the time he was born until he was 4 when this happened. She used to take him um to like those little parades on Babcock in Melbourne, like the Christmas parades and everything. She would do that with for Tyler, like, and I thought she was just my friend, but this whole time she was plotting against me to get um to get information out of me and then play that on to into him by telling him that I'm lying to him, that I'm cheating. None of this was even true. None of this was true, but people sometimes there's people out there that are just home wreckers, and that's what I'm sorry, that's what she
Girl,
was.
there's people all over the
She,
world that are home
yeah,
wreckers.
she wrecked my home, and
Absolutely.
my she wrecked my son also as well.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler still does not want anything to do with that family, and I won't say their name because I out of respect, but um, we all know. So yeah, that was really tough. And then at the same time, I'm dealing with all this addiction problems as well. I it started with the doctors giving me the pain pills, and then that led after. It was a very short period of time I was on them, but it led to heroin eventually. And when that happened, I was staying in Merritt Island where I seen you working at one day, and I had met this guy who was a musician, and his name was Chris. He was a beautiful soul. He was trying to help me pick up the pieces of my life at a time where I had nowhere to go, I had nowhere to stay, nowhere to live. Everybody I knew in Melbourne was upset with me or had some kind of, or they knew Rich, and it was just not good for me to go there. Or that,
Stephanie, can I go back a little bit?
yes,
Because I want to make sure that they understand this. In
yes,
the mix of her losing Rich, and her going through this drug addiction, we turn around and Stephanie, through betrayal, loses custody of her son as well.
yes.
Instead of somebody helping her. And this is why I say,
My mom, my stepmom,
as Christians,
yes.
absolutely, as Christians, we need to help. And it angers me. And
Oh, I
Stephanie
know.
knows how I feel about this stuff. And I
Yes,
know many people, if they don't know me on a personal level or have recently met me, they don't
yes,
know that side of me. But I will
yes, I
stick
know.
up for you till the very end. I don't care who you are.
That's why
So
when I see you, Anna, and I know that your story was not, I mean, with you didn't have the
absolutely,
drugs or anything, but when you lose a child like that, like um and then the family that your family starts talking bad to your child about you. It wasn't my dad doing it, it was the mother
absolutely,
and my stepmom and
mhm,
Mimi,
absolutely,
we'll just say that. And
absolutely.
but you know what? That kind of was a plus in the end, because then he got mad with her for talking bad. And so thank you, Pat. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Mimi.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever told you this, but I did go by the house by Mr. Jones' house and with that
Yeah, I know you
person.
did. I know you
And
did. I heard
um,
through
you know,
I heard through the grapevine.
and of
Yes.
course I check up on my friends, even though some may not know it. You know,
No, I
life
know.
sometimes spaces people
Yes,
for whatever reason away,
yes.
and it's okay.
But
Um,
then it brings us back in the end, so that's good.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, she, I stopped by there a few times and I saw her son, and
Yes.
while the other person wasn't looking, I would kind of put my hands on him because I
Yes.
had already given my life
Met
to the
him.
Lord
Yes.
by then, and I'm praying over this child because
Yes, you are.
I knew there was more to that story than what
Yes,
even
there
I
is.
was being told. Just so happened that again, Stephanie, that person have a friend in common, so it
Yes.
brought it all to
The
it united all of us in a crazy way. I
Yes,
stopped
you
a few
did.
times over the years. Never was fortunate to see Mr. Jones. That's really what I
Right.
would stop by and hoping that maybe
Trying
I'd
to see,
do
yeah.
anything to be in town from Orlando. Um,
Yes.
and so then I turn around and then I see I moved to Merritt Island. I start
Yes, I
working.
know. That was
Out of
wow.
nowhere, the
You're
last
working
person
at
I thought I'd
7-Eleven.
see,
I
I was
couldn't
working
believe
at
that.
7-Eleven, yes. The last person in the world I thought I'd see.
Yes.
Um, Here comes Mr. Jones,
And
and
Stephanie. The day it was like I think it was the day I lost Rich that day.
it was,
It was the
it
day.
was,
It was the
it was.
day that my dad
Mhm.
picked me up from Merritt Island and got me in the car. And if you know my dad is so strong, and he was
Absolutely,
crying. He was crying.
absolutely.
And I knew when I got in the car that I was like, is it my brother? Is it Tyler? Is it this person? And I never even thought to think about, Rich. And that's who it was. And I remember getting out the car right before I seen you, and I just dropped to my knees, like, um, and then I walked inside and got a pack of Newports. I got a pack of Newports, and I'm like seeing you, and I'm like, oh my God, and it was like a godsend. Like I couldn't believe it.
And to see the light in your
I
eyes,
needed,
like
yes, I
I
needed to
needed
see you.
this friend out of any friend this very
Yes,
second. I didn't understand that second.
No.
And I'll tell you, we interchanged numbers. Mr. Jones was happy to see me. I've always
Oh
been
yeah.
very
Oh yeah.
respectful of all of my friends' all of my
Yeah.
friends' parents and family. I don't disrespect anybody.
No. No.
Well, military, we're not raised like that anyway,
No.
but
Not
the
at all.
majority of us.
Yeah.
And it was just one of the most awesome yet sad, and that stuck
Yes.
with me
Yes,
that
it
whole day.
was. Yes, it was.
Stephanie left me a number.
Yeah.
I tried to call Stephanie a few times. I was only able to reach her once. Of course, it
Yes.
was a roller
You're
coaster
right.
ride from there.
Yeah.
You then meet a guy there in Merritt Island.
Yes.
What
Chris.
happens next?
I meet Chris because I was going to the methadone clinic for the addiction to the opiates, the pills and everything. And I meet Chris and and then he overdosed on methadone. He was the only person that was there for me when Rich died, and then I lost him. Um so then I decided to put myself in the hospital because I just at this point I'm like, why is this happening to
Am I
me?
the problem? Was that
Yes,
like your form of thought?
I had this survivor's guilt. Like, why do they keep going and I'm still here? And then you know how you hear the good die young, so then you think, well, I'm bad then. I must be
Mhm,
bad. Or
mhm.
that yeah, so then I go to I end up getting on disability for my bipolar and everything, and I didn't want to do that because I knew that she would try to use that against me, which she did, but that's okay, my stepmother. But so then
Now,
I
mind you
end up
guys,
in my
although she had her drug addiction,
yes,
although, whatever she was battling, I will say this about Stephanie, she was still working. She
yes,
she was
I
fine
had
functioning.
I
You
had
wouldn't even
very
think it. You
I had
wouldn't
very
even
good
think
jobs.
Stephanie had an addiction.
Yes, I had very good jobs, and I did not. I you couldn't really tell that I was. I
High
mean,
functioning. You were
sometimes
high
I was a
functioning.
very high functioning addict, and
Mhm.
I thought I was tricked by everything because if I thought that it was making me a better person.
Absolutely.
Yes, I really thought that because if I would didn't have it, then I would be sick. So then if I was sick, then well, what can I do? I can't go to work. I obviously can't take care of my son, so that's what
Absolutely.
I thought. And it turned on me, but that's okay. Because we'll get to that. So I ended up now through all this, I'm still going through my eating disorder and I have this body dysmorphia, and I'm um when I fall in love, I fall in love hard. You know, I fall in love hard. And so I moved to Miami because I'm like, I can't live in this town no more. Everybody I know is dropping dead, or they're going to prison for life, or going to jail, or
Catching
they're just
HIV, like in the
yes,
state
they're
of
getting it.
Florida.
Yes, like Dan. Yes, we had a friend that got that. And Eric's gone. Eric Montana, Rob Lopez. I mean, I could I could name like 20 people the other day. I was counting on my hands. I was watching that 13 Reasons Why show on Netflix. That show is really deep. I got to the last show of the last season, and then oh man, when that happened on that show, and I won't spoil it for anybody because
Please
that
don't.
show
I
is
haven't
very
watched it.
I'm not going to tell you because it's a good show. It's a good show, but if you have dealt with anything about suicide or not, then don't watch it, because I have I've known, and that's where we're going to get to next because that's the next thing that happened to me. Tito, the Dominican guy that I was
Mhm.
with, um
Now I
so
remember. Okay.
after Chris, yeah. Um After Chris, I go to the hospital in, I think it was Fort Pierce or Port St. Lucie, somewhere there, and
Now,
they
when
send
she
me to
says hospital, what exactly are you referring to? Because I know
okay,
what you're referring to. Huh?
yeah, there's nursing homes, there's ALFs, there's these places that the doctor sends you for Medicare money because I worked and everything. When I got on disability, I got like the disability with Medicare. So I moved to Miami, and there's the Medicare capital of the world. And
Absolutely.
that's how I met him.
Wow.
That's how I met him.
Wow.
I met him,
Mhm.
and he was my age, Dominican. It was in 2008 that I lost him, but he was also schizophrenic, and his dad had committed suicide when he was 19, and he had seen his dad do it. He did it in front of him. Well, he was sitting in
So,
a chair.
so can I ask you a question, Stephanie?
Yes, go ahead.
Did you feel that you had to, and I ask you this, and if you don't want to answer it, it's okay. I respect it. And, I'm always going to respect
Go ahead. No, it's
your
okay.
opinion. Is it fair to say that you felt to a certain extent you had to kind of save these different men? Because we're talking
I
about a
felt like it was my
tragedy from
fault.
the time she was a child.
I thought it was my fault.
Okay. Okay.
I've been thinking this, especially this last one, with my husband, with Miguel. Um, so let's just speed up to 2008, and I will tell you what happened. He was schizophrenic, and he wasn't taking his meds for like a week, and he became well, I was only with him for like from 2006 to 2008, so just for a short time, and then he stopped taking his meds because he thought that the meds wouldn't, like, the meds were doing this and that, and they were making him tired or whatever. And so when he got off his meds, he started thinking things were happening that weren't happening, and he thought everybody was against him that was for him, like his
Absolutely.
mom and me. And so he took an overdose of Benadryl, and they came and told me the next day. He was found outside Mount Sinai Hospital in Miami Beach. He had died on he was trying to get there to Mount Sinai Hospital, but he died at the last bus stop right before he get there. So he must have been on the bus and then just got off, and something happened. So that that kind of was that happened, and I was like, whoa. I didn't break down or anything. At this point I'm like, you know what? Wow, okay. What else are you gonna throw at me now? Um
And I'll
so
add that
I
there was
ended up in a yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, there was a
Go ahead.
point where Stephanie got really angry, and
Yes.
her anger was towards God
Yes, I
because
didn't
she
believe in
couldn't
him anymore.
understand. And it's one of these things where your friend who has a really good upbringing, although
Yes.
she dealt with so many obstacles against her. And this is me putting myself in your shoes, and you're like,
Okay.
Eve, how do I help? The
Right.
whole time I would tell God, guide me, lead me on what to do for
Yes.
Stephanie. What can I do? Because
Mm.
on and off, I'm getting calls from Stephanie.
Yes.
She would
Every like
kind of
week,
disappear and then
every
come
few
back.
weeks. Yes. Yes. Mainly when I was manic, and I had to, or I was alone and no one
Mhm,
was around, and I needed to get that stuff off my chest.
mhm,
That pain, that
mhm.
anguish, that I told Anna, I knew she was Christian, and I knew that she believed, and I knew she had a personal relationship with Jesus. Yet I would, even though I would go out in the street and say, F you, God, you're not real, or what are you going to throw at me now? I would still call her. It was me calling you, because I knew in my heart, I really knew that he was real and everything, but all the things that had happened to me, I didn't think he liked me, or I thought maybe there's something I've done wrong, or that and I tried so many different ways to get help throughout the years. Like, I've been dealing with this addiction now for 20 years. Like, the other last month in July was Rich had passed away. It's been 18 years. So then I got a little bit depressed last month, because I was like, wow, I have been dealing with this stuff for 18 years, and it just happened, it just keeps happening. And so that happened. The death with Tito happened. He he offed himself, really. And so at this point I'm like, oh my God, like, there is no God. There is no God to me. Like, I started saying that, I started, and then I met Miguel, and I met him, and through, like, in Miami, if you have Medicare, remember this? Like, I don't know if you remember this. If you have Medicare and stuff, you could and you got in trouble, like with the law. If you have mental illness in Miami, and insurance, they will send you to like a ALF type of facility, which is like kind of like a sober house, but where somebody takes your check and everything and only gives you $54 and stuff like that if you don't have nowhere to go, you know. And I went to one of these because I didn't have nowhere to go and I didn't want to come back to Melbourne because by this time I'm thinking everybody hates me and that I've done so much wrong, but I haven't done anything to anybody really. It's just things that had happened to me had made me believe that I'm a bad person. I must be bad because these things keep happening to me. The same um, death and destruction from addiction, though. It's all because of addiction, um, and
Is
because
it fair to
what?
say that you were hurting yourself? Can you
Yes.
admit that
Oh
today?
yes. Yes.
Because you
Totally.
couldn't then. You remember, right?
I feel like all those years I was suicidal. I just didn't
Absolutely.
have a gun to my head. But putting a needle in my arm and all that and all
Absolutely.
the stuff that I've done, absolutely I was hurting myself and
Wow.
that's the difference now. Like so I'll get to the last tragedy and then I'll tell you about the turnaround where
We're going to have to do part two. I hope
yes
you
we
know
are. Yes we are. That'll be okay. So so I'm living in one of these places. It's an ALF, and then now these people are all in jail. I don't know if I got to tell you about that, but um, one of the guys was taking a yes, it was very serious, and I had to go to federal courthouse and everything, and then I couldn't tell anybody. They had to put me up in a hotel, and it was my life has been that Medicare
So
fraud
you
has
were
been very
like a secret witness.
yes,
I remember
yes, I
that.
was.
I do
Because
remember.
if they would have known who it was that was going to tell on them, they would have never thought it was me, and then someone could have came after me.
And so, long story short,
Yes,
in Florida at the time, there was, and you guys can look this up for yourself,
yes, the
there was
pill
a
mill
lot
law.
of fraud. We'll just
Yes,
leave it
the
like
pill
that
mills.
going on
Yes,
with medication, with
yes.
Medicaid, Medicare, all that
I
good
was
stuff.
getting 9 prescriptions of the same thing every month. So, if I didn't tell on these doctors that were doing it, and I didn't go to court and admit to what they had done to me, like honestly, if I think about it, it wasn't my fault that these 3 doctors were giving me the same medication. You know, they knew I was an addict. They had knew I had addiction problems. They just kept doing it because they wanted that money, and they don't care about lives. They don't care if you OD or die or if somebody does because of what they're giving, you know. And it's very
Yeah.
sad. Yeah. So
Um, Go ahead.
I meet Miguel, who became that was 10 years. That was in 2009. Oh, that was my baby.
Take your time, honey.
Yeah, I know. So there was some years there with Miguel that I was doing really well. You know, I would call you
Mhm.
and tell you, hey, this is that. I got on Suboxone, and there was like 3 years that I wasn't in the mental hospital, that I wasn't in the psych ward, because he was a man. He made me do good. You know, he really did. But he had his own problems at the same time. And but for years he was doing well. For years we were doing very well for ourselves. We had our own place. We had our car. Things that I hadn't had in a long time. You know, and so how do you want me to? Because I see it.
Take
Um,
your time.
okay. So
Um,
I meet him, and then he automatically takes me out of the situation I was in with these doctors and everything.
can I say something, Steph?
Yes,
I
yes,
want to go back to Melbourne because
yes.
it wasn't that Stephanie never went to a church or talked to a
Oh
pastor.
no, no, you're right.
Please
You're
do
right.
not say the name.
Yeah, you're
Please
right.
do not.
Yes.
And we will not, because that
18 years
person is
ago,
still there.
yes, I did
We
go
will
to a
not say
church.
the name of the church
No,
as well.
no, we won't
This
tell you. I won't say
Talk
the
about
pastor's
your
name either.
conversation with that pastor. We're running short of time. We got like 5 minutes, but
Yes.
we're going to go into part two of this because I think this is
Okay.
very important and people need to hear
Yes.
this. If you are free next Wednesday, I would love to have you back, Stephanie.
Yes, please. Please.
Um,
No problem.
And there's a lot to this story. There's so
Yes.
much more she didn't have time to say.
Yes, with people and the witchcraft, the voodoo, yes. I
Absolutely.
didn't touch
And we're
on
going to
that.
get there next week. I promise we
Yes.
will. When you meet this pastor in particular, and I want the church to
I was
recognize.
baptized then. I was baptized then by him, and that
Really?
was
I didn't know
wrong.
that.
That was wrong. Yes, there's like a in Melbourne. There's like where the causeway, like you could like people were jumping
No,
off
I
that.
know where's that.
Yes,
I know.
yes.
I know.
And
Um,
I thought that was real. Like I thought he was legit, and he was not.
Absolutely. And see, that's what I want
Yes,
you to briefly tell, because I want the
yes.
listening
Because
audience.
I didn't explain that's what I thought religion was. I didn't
Yeah,
know what
and I wanted to
Christianity.
make
It
sure
was
that before we get off air, you
yes,
go into that and you
yes. I
let them know.
understand now that there's a difference between
There you go.
Christianity and religion.
There you go. And that's what I
Yes,
want you to let them know. And I want Christian
yes,
people, before I let her say that, I want Christian people to understand something.
yes.
Don't think you're so high and mighty
No.
that you do what this pastor did to her. Mind you, everything that you guys heard from the minute she moved to Melbourne at 8 years old on to how old
Yeah.
were you then? I think we were about
I was
25.
I
Was it 11?
No, we were when I moved to Melbourne or
No, no,
when I
no.
met
It
him.
was
I was
around
just
the time
about 22
22,
when I
23.
met him.
Okay,
Yes.
so about that age.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe
so
you're right. You're right. You got a good
yeah,
memory.
I
You
do.
have
I
better
do.
memory
It
than
might
me, and
not
I thought
come
I had a good one.
short term, might not come right away, but I
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
So you then turn around and you're talking to this pastor, you're reaching out to him for help.
Hmm.
Briefly tell, we have about 2 minutes. Briefly
Okay.
tell what happened.
Basically, he I don't know how to explain it, Anna. He showed me that the church can be very I
Deceiving.
thought that's what I thought, that giving them my food stamps, giving them the whatever they wanted, it was um they tried to show me that they thought and I did think that he was all like it was a cult. It was a cult. And so and I started to see that, and when I did, that's when they totally made me out to be the bad guy. And in church one day they pointed me out in front of the whole church and said I was wicked, and they threw a rubber eyeball at me. Like they had done this before, and I didn't know why they were doing it. And that day they put me on Front Street like that and made me feel. I mean, I felt terrible. Like I didn't know what I had done wrong, and all I had done was talk to LaCrista, the DCF worker, and told her what was going on. They had a thrift store in Melbourne. They had the church, and they were getting donations from people, and they were not right. They were not right.
So
They tried to tell
remember,
me briefly they made me sicker than I was because they told me I could not take my medicine there. That all I needed was Jesus and everything, and but that's not what they were giving me. No, they weren't.
so
Yeah.
and put yourself in an addict's shoes.
Yes, I didn't
You're
have.
fighting
I thought
addiction.
I'm in addiction, and I need to be in this place to get my son back. So I would do anything at this time to get my son back. And
And
I'm fighting
this
with
is a
DC.
pastor.
Yes, yes, I'm fighting with DCF for my son, and trying to get him back and follow all their case plan. You know, for my to telling me if I
Absolutely.
don't finish Agape's plan, then I'd lose him. Terminate TPR, terminate my parental rights, and I didn't want that to happen.
Stephanie fought.
Yes, I did. I fought hard.
It's 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Stephanie, we
I
have to
can come
finish
back on.
this.
Yes, I'm
We have
sorry.
to finish this because no. It's I want you to finish your story. People
Okay.
need to hear your story. People need to hear what an addict actually goes through. And
Yeah.
an addict can be you. An addict can be me. An addict can be
It
whoever.
could be your mom. It could be your dad. It could be
Absolutely. It can be your pastor.
yes.
Remember that.
There you go.
Have sympathy for
You
others,
said that right
guys.
on time. That was awesome that you said that. I didn't
Absolutely.
even think that. I had no clue. And
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely. So, always remember that it can affect you
yes,
in
it
any
can.
shape, form, or manner. Next week, I'll be bringing Stephanie back
Yeah,
for her final part of her testimony to say where she's
yeah.
at. This was not the Stephanie that you heard back then. Stephanie was all over the place. Stephanie was
I
cussing.
was.
Lord, she was, I mean, she doesn't maybe remember a lot of it, but I do.
No, I don't. I
Um,
don't. I
I know.
remember, but not very clearly. And I've
Absolutely.
learned something lately that sometimes when trauma happens to us, our mind protects us by
Mhm.
telling us that it was something different, that it happened differently. But now that
Absolutely.
I'm in recovery and I'm clean and sober now, I'm starting to realize that how things really happened, and I need this show as much as anybody else because I need to get it out. I do.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I love you,
God,
sis.
I love
I
you too,
love
Anna.
you.
Okay.
And I will see each and every one of you guys. I am
Yeah,
praying for each and every one of you guys. If you guys need a friend, call me, call Stephanie. Stephanie
yes,
Jones
please.
is tagged on my Facebook. Look for
Yes,
her because her testimony, wait till you guys hear what happens then because it
yes,
gets worse. God bless each and every one
yes.
of you guys. Have a good week. I will see you guys Wednesday on Lunchtime with Anna. I love you guys and God bless each and every one of
God
you guys.
bless.
Ciao.
God bless. Ciao.